going to have getting to know somebody that doesn't look like you, that hasn't had the same background as you. It's so easy to have a conversation with someone who looks like you, talks like you, dresses like you, works like you, got the same money or even greater. But somebody who doesn't, that's in a situation that doesn't look so attractive and comfortable, and that can be very difficult. But I guarantee you it's super rewarding, and it's just not one thing that you just show up one time and do. It's like a way of life. Like Jesus walked with the 12 disciples. Like people, there are men in prison, men and women. They just need somebody to walk with them and encourage them.
Welcome back to another episode of the Redeemed Man podcast. I'm Nathan Dewberry, and today Paul and I have a special guest with us. We're excited because Paul and I don't think we've actually interviewed just one guest with both of us present. So we're trying something different today. So we're very excited about that. But we have Jonathan Irons with us today, and we talk about stories of redemption. So one of the things that's passion of ours at the Redeem is to talk about those who've experienced redemption in a powerful way. And Jonathan has a very powerful story. And in order to make sure I don't miss some of it, I'm actually going to read that today. But Jonathan grew up in Wentzville, Missouri, a city outside of St. Louis. When he was just 16 years old in 1997, he was tried and convicted as an adult by a jury for the burglary and shooting at a home of a 38-year-old man. While in prison, Jonathan was introduced to a friend named Maya Moore, and they met in Missouri's Jefferson City Correctional Center in 2007. The summer before Maya started college at UConn, they met through a family member who was helping with a prison ministry there. Throughout his time in prison, Jonathan maintained his innocence while in jail, saying he was wrongly identified during the lineup. He was serving a 50-year sentence in prison. After years of fighting, a Missouri judge overturned Irons' conviction in March of 2019, saying there were problems with how the case had been investigated and tried, including a fingerprint report that would have proved Irons' innocence. While he's now over 40, he spent much of his life in prison for a crime he didn't commit. He said he doesn't feel resentment toward the man who wrongly identified him and that he was a victim as well. His now wife, Maya, and others played a critical role in his pursuit of freedom. He was ultimately released from prison and now married to Maya for almost 4 years, and they have a little boy named JJ. And man, your story is unbelievable in so many ways. I've had the opportunity to know you personally due to our wives' connection, but that story of redemption and what God has done in your life, and again, things that you didn't do to yourself that were done to you, and yet you have such a positive outlook. Paul, I would love for you to ask him the question we ask all of our guests.
Yeah. Truly, what does redemption mean to you?
I'm going to say it simply. It just means that God can take a lemon and make lemonade. He can make something valuable out of something that's not valuable, and he can make a treasure out of a rock. You know, he can fix it. He can do some amazing things.
I've used that phrase, making lemonade out of lemons, yesterday.
Wow.
So I can truly say that I am in touch and in tune with what you're saying. I can appreciate that, and thank you for saying that. It is, a passion of ours here to talk about these stories and what it means to overcome. And you have truly overcome in your life. And, can you tell us a little bit about your walk of faith and what got you to this place today, that you have such a heart that would be willing to even forgive somebody who falsely accused you?
Well, I would say if I could simply say, like, my faith, how I got that, I would say that I saw enough evidence, like, in my life in a way that I understood it. You know, I understood God's hand and his presence and his fingerprint and his DNA in my life. Like, there were things that the only way to explain it is to receive, like, okay, the possibility that someone outside of me did this. And I'm confirmed and confident that it was him, because it's just the way things have happened, prayers that I have answered, some signs that I have seen, and just, what I've read in the Bible and how it's impacted me and transformed me and helped me, become the man that I am today. And then as far as like the guy who falsely accused me, like he's a victim. Like somebody coached him and gave him false information because they needed him to fit their narrative, and they were trying to put a square in a circle, and that's that's not his fault. Like I can't be mad at him and angry at him for that. He didn't know. Like he's twice a victim. Not only was he assaulted, but he was lied to and manipulated to, by people that he trusted, which is not good.
Jonathan, when I hear you talk about your story and what God's done in your life, I also know there's some people that sowed some things into your life early on. Can you talk a little bit about your grandmother and some things that she sowed into your life that, again, God produced fruit later on in life by those relationships that you encountered when you were in prison?
Well, my grandmother used to read the Action Bible to me when I was little. Like every night we'd get that Action Bible out and I'd look at the little cartoon characters and I'd be like, wow, that's cool. Like I see Samson and like Noah's Ark and all the different, Jonah and the whale, all those different stories. And it just, I always wondered, like, why is she making me do this? Like, why does she pray all the time? Why is she telling me, to pray? Why is she telling me to read Proverbs and Psalms? She instilled like the foundational principles of that, in my life, and just would pour into me. And when I got arrested and in the county jail, she would always ask me, "Are you praying? Are you reading Proverbs and Psalms?" And at first I was like, yeah, but I wasn't.
Right.
I was just saying yeah to be done. Like I'm screaming out, "Somebody help me, please!" And all along she's telling me like, "This is your help. Like you need to pray. Do you need a Bible?" And I said, "Yeah, I need a Bible. I don't have a Bible." She didn't ask, "Have you been reading it or anything like that?" She said, "Do you need a Bible?" I said, "Yeah, I need a Bible." So she sent me this old Bible, one of her old Bibles that she had fingerprint residue on the sides, and like she had notes all in it, and just like you could tell she's been studying that. Yeah. So she was very impactful and just piquing my interest. And you'll never know the value of something that you love, someone that you love, the value of the knowledge and insight that they put into you until you're in a situation where you have to listen to it. And like you've tried everything else. Like I've tried it my way, I've tried it this way, I've tried it that way. I remember my grandma was like, "I need to pray." Like, okay, who am I praying to? She used to believe in God. So one day I said, if you're real, show me. Because this is horrible. Like where I'm at right now. Surely you did not do this. If you're real, like prove yourself to me. I was kind of challenging and somewhat disrespectful. Like I apologize now because he is real, and he's had his hand on my life through some very difficult times in a way that I know that it's him. She taught me resilience. Because like I remember one of the most painful but endearing memories to me. We were going to one of my school teacher parent meetings, and you ever watch the movie The Help? Yeah. Where my grandmother was one of those ladies in St. Louis. I have a picture of her, a vintage picture where she was with her coworkers and she had just got through scrubbing some houses, and cleaning them and doing laundry and all that. So because of that, she had bad knees. Like she was on her knees scrubbing all the time, and like to take every step was extremely painful. Like so much so that she didn't even want to go on long car rides because of the pain. But we went to school one day and she had her cane, she dressed up, she had her scarf on, she had her nice purse on. She had like 9 purses around the house. That was her nice one. And we went up in there, but every step was painful, and I knew it was painful for her because she would have to stop and pause. And, but she pushed on, because of her love, for me, and wanting to show up for me and show the teachers that like this child is loved and valued. Like she pushed on through her pain, through her frustration and her anger. Also, saw that. She took care of the whole family on a few dollars. She would spend $5 and feed 10 heads. Like I didn't know how she did that, but you know, she did a good job of that. She taught me like to have love for people no matter where they're at. My grandmother would take anybody in, white, black, Mexican. You know, at one point there was like 25 kids in that house that my grandmother had, but none of them were hers at the time. They were all her cousins' kids or her sisters, through her different family. And other people would stop by. Everybody called her Granny, and she's not even my grandmother, my biological grandmother. She's my great aunt. She is my grandmother's sister. And so she would just take kids in, take people in, and she would treat everybody with love and respect and dignity. But if you got out of line, she'd tell you about yourself. She don't care who you were. She's like, excuse me, that's not appropriate. You know, she would do that. And she tanned my hide a couple times, you know, in my life. Matter of fact, probably more than a couple times.
What an amazing story of your grandmother, or who you knew as Granny in a lot of ways. You also had the other side of the coin, though, where you have somebody who's investing in you, but then you had people say some very painful things early on that really marked you. And I think so many times we discount people's words. There's the phrase, you know, that the words aren't going to hurt, you know, sticks and stones break my bones, you know, and it's so true, not true. Words hurt.
Yes, they
do.
Impact
our life. And you had some words that really spoke to your intellect when you were early in school. And yet God used other people to change that narrative. One of those being your grandmother, and then also a gentleman when you were in prison, Mr. Flowers. Tell us a little bit about Mr. Flowers and what a difference he made in your life just by his ministry there in the prison.
So U Flowers was in prison ministry like 30 years, even before he met me. He had been faithful coming in, ministering to guys, teaching them things, and just working with them. When I came in, I started going to the chapel, and because I love how the men's choir sounded, and I wanted to get some of that. I wanted to see what was going on and investigate, because I didn't want to hear all the obscenities and everything else that was going on inside a normal prison environment, for whatever normal means, with that. So I came in and I met him, and he just instantly, man, took a liking to me, and he started teaching us music theory. He would give us material, go over it with us, and then come back the next week, and we'd have to take a test. But before we took the test, he would ask questions, and like me and another guy were the only ones like raising our hands, like, I know the answer. What is this? I know the answer. And then it got to the point where he's like, somebody other than Jonathan and Lewis. And he seemed like he was irritated, by that. Yeah. But afterwards, he probably was irritated, but thankful that like at least someone, like more than one person, cared about what he was teaching. And then he would take me after the end of the class, and he would talk to me. And I remember one day he asked me, he said, "What are you in prison for?" I said, "Man, you're not gonna believe me if I tell you." So I said, "Don't worry about that, man. I'm here for however long I'm here." He said, "No, tell me for real. Just try me." I said, "Well, I'm in prison for something I didn't do. They accused me of breaking in somebody's house and shooting me." He said, I can't believe it." I said, "See, I told you wasn't gonna believe it." He's like, No, that's not what I mean. I just find it hard to believe that, like they did you like that. That is," he said, "Please tell me more about your case." And I told him more, and then he also told his daughter. He would tell his family. I didn't know it, but he was telling his daughter and his other family members about me. And while that was going on, he also like breathed life into me. He told me, he kept telling me, "You are so intelligent." I'm like who you talking to? He's like, I'm talking to you. And it's like, oh wow, okay. He's like, you answered all the music theory is not easy. Like, you understand this. He said, "Jonathan, you are so bright, so intelligent. You need to go to the library as often as you can and learn everything that you can." He said, "Because like the sky is the limit for you." And I said, "Wow." And I, a little bit after that, I said, I asked him, I was nervous about it. You about to ask a girl on a date for the first time, instead of using the, will you go out with me, check yes or no, little note. But it was more of, like, "Hey man, I got something to ask you." He said, "What's up?" I said, thinking he might reject me. I said, will you be my dad? He said, I'm getting emotional talking about it. He said, what? Yes, of course. Yes, I'll be your father. Yes. And even though he's not my father, I just needed someone to cover me and love me like that, because I didn't have that in my life. It's like him telling me yes, it just seemed to just break things in me. Like all of the things that, people made me feel like I wasn't valuable and I didn't have, that didn't matter. Like him telling me that, and the things he spoke of me breathed life to me. It is true that there is life and death in the power of the tongue. They say sticks and stones, won't break my dad. Words will hurt you. They will. Like especially when you have a young, impressionable mind and you're trying to get your identity and figure out who you are as a person. Like as a community, like we have, even if you don't have children, we have a community obligation to just pour into and speak life into the children within our influence.
So true.
Wow, there's a lot in that.
Yeah.
The thing that comes across most to me is the fact that 90% of what you say sometimes isn't the words, but it's how you show up.
Yeah.
Your tears, I got to tell you, really speak to the heart of how much this man meant to you and how much those words meant to you. It's hard to do that. It's hard to step back and say that I can just reflect off the ones that don't mean anything and absorb the ones that do. And so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
thank
no
you
doubt.
for having the heart to do that. I can imagine that prison is a tough spot to be in, and having someone who breathes into you like that really must make it a different place and make it feel different before and after his accepting you as your father.
Yes. Yeah, it anchored me, because like there's a current that's inside there that it's going in all type of different directions, but it's all basically slanted for things that don't lead up and add to you. It takes from you. It's a place of subtraction. Yes, it's not a place of addition. It's not a place where it adds to you. Like it is like being in the valley void of light. Like literally, like not it may be sun outside, but like the things people say, the things that they do in there, the culture is very contrary to the light. Very.
So how do you find that, other than this gentleman who became your dad, how do you find that beacon of light? How do you choose, if everyone is going in one direction, how did you have the wherewithal going in at 16 years old to say, I'm going to become a man that's different than everything I see around me?
So the good thing about God is that he can be light in the darkness, and God puts a premium on relationships. Like he sent people in my life that continue to walk with me, like at my level, at my age, some older than me, some younger than me, where I was basically surrounded by people, even ones that weren't Christians. Like, how being in the lion's den, imagine the lions' mouths being shut, that don't consume you. Like I experienced that there were mighty dangerous men that were in there that saw something in me. It's like, man, I like you, man. You're a good dude. Stay away from that person, or don't go around to these particular times. Like avoid these type of people. And then there are other Christian men that would, when I joined the church and started going to the choir, I had this guy named Lewis Morgan. Man, this guy helped me change the way I dressed. Like I used to sag. He said, what you, a crack dealer? I said, no, man, I'm not selling no crack. What are you talking about? He said, you got your pants all down with your crack out, like you're advertising. It's like, people in here watch for that. Like that's not a good thing to do. He said, you should think about pulling your pants up, man, if and identify yourself as clean and proper.
Jonathan, you had shared prison can be a really hard place, but God was there with you and did some amazing things, and you chose your perspective to see God's presence with you in that. You and Maya have a ministry Win with Justice. And you also written a book, Love and Justice, which tells your story. But then your nonprofit's fighting for justice today. Tell us a little bit about how you met Maya, and then also about what you guys are doing to with your organization.
Okay. I met Maya after Mr. Flowers had introduced me to his daughter and son-in-law. They had been coming up to see me for probably about a year or two at this point. And they asked if I wanted to see her. I was like, sure. I was expecting, them and her, to come in once or twice and, and be done, after that. But the day they brought her, she came in, and I was expecting her to be judgmental because, like, the gates slam so hard, and they makes you wonder, like, they got all this barbed wire. What are they trying to keep in here? She walked in. She was warm, inviting, and sweet natured, and so down to earth. Like, to the point where I was convicted of, what I thought, and it just touched me when I shed a tear because I was just like, I can't believe this. So cool, so down to earth, and like we just kicked it and talked. We played checkers one game, and she beat me, and she didn't play anymore. I got a game now that I've got her. It's basketball tic-tac-toe. I won one game and haven't played her since. So, so I said, so we're even. It's like, man, we just, we were in a place where, we were friends, and like over the course of time, like the Lord stitched us together, and to the point where we fell in love, and like she told your wife, about us, and like her mom, and different people. And we were at that point, we were just trying to figure out, like, this is not a normal way to date. We were trying to figure out how to do that, and the core of what we had was conversation, communication. We communicated well and often. We would write, we would talk on the phone on the regular. She would come see me when she could, and we just continued to grow and develop a strong friendship. Like, to this day, like that's the foundation of our marriage. It's like our friendship. Like that's my buddy. It's my friend. It's my best friend.
No, I think what you said there, I just had some premarital counseling this weekend and was talking about how communication really is the foundation for intimacy. It is being able to share, kind of who you are with somebody else. And so you guys developed that intimate friendship that thus led to an intimate relationship where you have an amazing foundation of communication, and you guys had to learn to do things that other people never had to learn. And that built a relationship that honestly is a model for so many people. But talk to me a little bit now about your nonprofit and what you guys are doing, because you guys met, and Maya fought hard for believing in you and your story and making sure that wrong conviction was overturned. And now, due to that and what her understanding, because she grew in her understanding a lot as she was doing the research and trying to figure out how to fight for you and with you. And due to that, you guys have really developed a heart to change some of the systems that are out there and really help people who are kind of in the same story that you're in.
So winwithjustice.org is an educational platform where we're basically sharing news about prosecutors. Prosecutors are probably the most powerful person in the courtroom. They can decide what to charge you, when to charge you. They can basically influence the jury, how to send, how much time to sentence you to if you get convicted. On the other side, they basically have immunity. The Supreme Court of the United States has a case where it is articulated in a clear fashion that a prosecutor can get away with planting or using false evidence, knowingly using false witnesses to testify against you. Like, they can literally get away with this and not be prosecuted and get away with it. And so at the core of wrongful convictions, everybody has to go through a prosecutor. Yeah. The problem is, it's like nobody knows about prosecutors. Nobody knows so much about these offices. So our job is to basically educate people and share with them information and research and data about the powerful roles that they play in our community. We're talking about conviction integrity units, different criminal justice reforms within the prison system, and just like, for example, reentry, like prisoners that need to get out or that are scheduled to get out, they need an opportunity that's going to help them stay out, versus everybody shunning them and not wanting to give them a job and not wanting to give them an opportunity. If that happens, they're liable to commit another crime, even a more worse crime. So it keeps the system going.
That's right.
Like it's like taking an old car and putting it in the garage and for 10 years and thinking that car is going to drive better once it gets released. It's probably going to be worse. So you want to go through it, make sure it's working right. So same thing for prisoners. Like there are people that are chomping at the bit that just need an opportunity, someone to pour into them, someone to believe in them. And like there are people that are doing it right now. They're doing it right, that whole system. And there are also people that are not doing it like they should be. We just want to come alongside and support, and share them. Like I've been speaking into different spaces and consulting, speaking down at the courthouse and where I live, and just traveling around and speaking to different organizations about some of the things that needs to be done. And like we're doing it as a team.
I love that. And one of the reasons I think it's so important for us as Christian men is God cares about justice, and we should care about justice. And you are standing for those that often don't have a voice. And as Christian men, I think sometimes one of the things that guys float around and maybe don't feel like they have purpose, there's so many things that they could jump on board to have purpose and identity for their life. And one of those is standing for those who, really don't have a voice of their own, or, don't even understand how to change the system. Thank you guys for what you're doing to help people understand that. Because I would say I was guilty not really understanding all the system that's out there to bring about convictions and then what overturn those and what that looks like. I learned a lot during the season when you guys were in the middle of trying to figure it all out, and honestly realized how much I didn't know. So thank you for what you're doing to educate.
Absolutely. In the Bible, if you do a word search on prison and prisoner, like you will see it a lot.
Yes.
And like I don't hear it talked about much, but I think the first person that Jesus said, "Today you will be in paradise," was a convicted criminal on the cross that was sentenced to death and in the process of transitioning into death. Like that was the first person. Like he didn't have to have on a suit and tie. Like he was in his sentence. Like the Lord said, "Today you'll be with me." So like if he is doing that for people on the cross, and it's all through the Bible, like remember those Matthew 25, the Matthew 25 initiative. Like remember those who are in prison as if I was there. Like you fed me when I was hungry. You came to see me and visited me when I was in prison. Well, when did you do that? Like whatever you do for the least of these, you do unto me. And that's an important thing that has to happen. As a society, if we don't care about the least of these, that is a reflection of who we are as a whole. Like it's not so much about how you respect the person who you have to respect and care for, but what do you do for the people that you don't have to?
Good word, John.
It would be so easy to completely be divided on whether our system in this country works. And I think there are a lot of wonderful things about America, but what happened to you is clearly not okay. No. And so I'm curious where you stand on, kind of where things are today, and then what are the places, and you may be through your 501c3, but maybe just you can also guide us for people that have a heart for ministry toward prisons. How and where can they get involved? Where would you tell them that they can help do the right thing and help this system move in the right direction, as opposed to hearing that it's a place of darkness and a place of negativity?
I would start with local churches local churches, and just talking with them and ask them, do you have any prison ministry programs? Because prison ministry is the most important part of helping reform people that are inside. You never know the power of a simple conversation until you're in a place where you start having conversations with a person that has not received a word of encouragement, a word of edification, until you're in a situation where you're pouring into that person. I was one of those people who needed a word of edification and encouragement. and it completely altered like the course of my life. Like and I've seen it happen inside, and like that is extremely important, and that is a good thing. How do you get there? Well, you have to go to your church or your local community that does prison ministry. It could be if you're a professor there are all type of educational programs that prisons are start to allow into their facilities. But it all starts with a conversation. Going to have getting to know somebody that doesn't look like you, that hasn't had the same background as you. It's so easy to have a conversation with someone who looks like you, talks like you, dresses like you, works like you, got the same money or even greater. But somebody who doesn't, that's in a situation that doesn't look so attractive and comfortable, and that can be very difficult. But I guarantee you it's super rewarding, and it's just not one thing that you just show up one time and do. It's like a way of life. Like Jesus walked with the 12 disciples. Like people, there are men in prison, men and women. They just need somebody to walk with them and encourage them. There are also some wolves in sheep's clothing. You have to watch out for them, and you have to do it wisely. You have to be wise as a serpent, but gentle as a dove. But you just have to show up and keep showing up and show up even when it's ugly. Keep showing up, encouraging, like keep going, don't give up. Like all this stuff is out here waiting for you. You get your life together out here. You have your family, start a family, like restore your family, reach out to your kids. Like there's so many different things that you can do with someone in a situation like that. And truth be told, like economically for people who are business people, like there's a worker shortage. Instead of sending money to different jobs to different countries, like some of these jobs could be brought into these prisons and they can teach people different job skills and different opportunities and actually save the taxpayer more dollars. Like it's too much money being poured into that. It's probably in some states, in some cities, it's probably more money poured into prisons than there is in education.
That's a sobering statistic and number to think about.
Yeah.
I've never even come close to contemplating that, and that is that's a big thought. Mm-hmm. And both systems have their pros and their cons. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily either of them succeeding, but you have wonderful people in both, whether it's prison ministry or teachers or whatever, and both undervalued in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily given their due in society the way their contribution is in the overall. Mm-hmm. I appreciate you throwing the challenge out there about getting to people who aren't like us. Mm-hmm. It's so easy to sometimes walk in and among the same people.
Be clannish, kind of standoffish. Like that's what isolates you. Like if you really want to challenge your ideals and your beliefs, share them with people that don't look like you and have a different way of life and have a different view. To test it. Like that's why God wants us to go out and minister and everybody and spend time with everybody so we can get the complete picture, because it's not just about us. Like he cares about all of us.
Yeah. Jonathan, I think about where you are now and what God has done in your life since leaving prison. What emotions come out when you reflect on the goodness of God? Because you have so much that you can look back and be bitter, but you've chosen not to. And yet now you can look and see, so many good things in your life. What emotions come to your mind when you think about your family, your son, the opportunities you get to be a part of today?
Well, I won't say it's all peaches and creams. I go through, on any given day, a plethora of emotions, but the thing that anchors me is being grateful for what I have. We have a lot to learn from Israel. When they got delivered from Egypt, they waxed, whined, and complained. Send me back. Oh, you out here, you got us out here to die, and it's hot, ain't no food. Complaining about all this stuff. But wait a minute, you just got delivered from your oppressor who did not care about you, did not believe in you. Like there's nothing about prison that I want to return to. But I can sit up and complain about all the things that I lost all those years and be stuck on that and miss the beauty of what God has put before me. I could miss my purpose. I could neglect my mission. Like God gives us all missions and purposes and objectives. We could miss those things. I could miss enjoying the beauty of my wife and my son. But God calls us to don't be anxious, but think about those things that are good and noble and true. Like those things anchor you and keep you in reality. And one of the things I found inside, I learned inside, because I went through a phase, like if you're worried about things and anxious and just frustrated, like it eats you up from the inside out. So one of the things that I found extremely helpful is to start naming off my blessings and naming them one by one and thinking about them. Be like, you know what, this is a good thing. Like, you know what, I woke up this morning, I'm on this side of the grave. I have my family. If you ain't got the family, like, you know, I have my health, I have my life, I have a job. If you ain't got a job, you got a roof over your head. And then there's always something that you can be grateful for. And if you start naming them one by one, that takes your focus off of the bad things.
Yeah, sure.
And another thing that you can do is rather than focus on yourself and your own needs, man, think about how you can serve other people. How can you help other people in the environment? Because you're probably not the worst off in your community. Even though you may feel that, there's somebody probably worse off than you or somebody that may need your help. And doing that puts you in a servant mindset. And that just basically, it's a soothing balm on the pain that's in your life.
It's good. My mom used to say when I would get frustrated about something, she would sing that song, Count Your Many Blessings, name them one by one.
Mm-hmm.
I used to get aggravated when she would do that because I didn't want to hear it in the moment.
Right.
But how true that practice is in our life to reflect on
Wisdom.
what God has done, because there always is something that we can be thankful for. That attitude that you have, I know, is part of the process for healing for you, but what else have you done to grow coming out of a traumatic environment? You went through the trauma of being wrongfully convicted and then being in the prison system, as you shared, a very dark place.
Traumatic place.
So what are some of the things as far as healing? I know one of those is community, and you talked about how important relationships are. Talk a little bit about that.
I've also went to counseling. Like I have a measure of, a PTSD from going through there. Like there was, and I've also challenged myself. There was a time when I first got out that I didn't want to sit with my back to an open area. Like I just couldn't do it. Like I'm still hyper vigilant right now. Like if don't nobody else knows what's going on around me, like I know, because I'm looking. What was that? I heard that noise. What's that? Why did he sit right there? And I deal with these questions, and sometimes I'm like, man, it don't matter. He's living his life, or this person is doing that. Just continuing to walk with my people and the friends that I have in my life. Like I'm constantly asking, like, okay, like I don't know this. I feel a little socially inadequate right now because I don't understand this, and my friends will take time and explain it to me. Like they don't make fun of me. Yeah. I'm like, oh man, how can you not know how to do this? Like, because I don't understand it. I remember when I first came home. Like it's important to tell people where you're at and what you're going through. Yeah. When the very first day, I wasn't even out 5 hours. We went to this bistro store in Jeff City. They had great food in there. And my wife was supposed to help me order something. She had a phone call. She was ordering flowers for our wedding. I didn't know it at the time, but I was just like, okay. She left, and I'm looking at this menu, and I don't understand anything on this menu except water. That's it. And the lady comes up, she goes to everybody, and I'm getting nervous. I'm like, oh no, where's Maya at? And she gets to me and she's like, all right, what do you need, hon? And I'm looking at this menu. I'm looking at her. I'm looking at this menu. And she starts tapping her foot, popping her gums. She's getting fidgety. I'm like, ma'am, look, I just got out of prison for something I didn't do. This is the first meal I've ever ordered out of prison. I'm sorry if I'm holding you up, but I don't understand anything on this list right now. She said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You know what? I'm going to be right back. She goes to the counter and come back 15 later with this little bitty birthday cake. And she says, happy birthday. Wow. Welcome to the world.
That's really cool.
Like, being confident, and comfortable with telling people who you are and what you go through. Like that's extremely, if you're having a bad day, like I'm not having such a good day today. Being honest about your feelings, and that's important, definitely important with the Lord, to just share, like this, I'm struggling here, like I'm going through something, or this is a good day, and just being real, that's extremely important.
That vulnerability,
yeah.
I mean, that willingness to say, I'm not perfect, I'm not okay. Mm-hmm. I can imagine in a prison environment, showing vulnerability is not something you want to do.
No, it's because people prey on weakness inside. They look for opportunities to subtract from you, to take from you, to rob, steal, and destroy. Rape, pillage, and plunder. Like, and that's saying it nicely. But when you have brothers that have stood through adversity with you, like it takes years to develop a friendship in prison. Like, you just can't rush into that because you don't know who you're working with. You might be working with the devil and don't even know it. Like, you just don't do that. And you basically say, like, well, we'll take time. It takes time to get to know each other. But once you get to know like someone and you know what they're really about, like to this day I have a contact list full of guys that I know from inside that would call me or I write them, and like we would share vulnerabilities. Like, man, I'm struggling today, man, but I couldn't share it with everybody. Because some people try to use it against you, use it as a weapon. They weaponize it, and it's contrary to it even happens out here, like in business settings and in the economy and the world we live in. If you share your vulnerabilities, like if you're competing with someone for a job position, they're going to try to use that against you. That's just nature. But if you find a way and find a group of people that, like, even if it's in a small gathering or like a brotherhood of friends, to like share with like what's really going on with you, like that's so healing. You don't want to keep it on the inside and hide it because it'll eat you up. It'll eat you alive.
Jonathan, I love your story of redemption, and I love your passion for God's word, and I love celebrating what God's done in your life. Like, it's just a joy to see where God has you and how believing that so much of your best days and the things that God's going to use even more are ahead. You really do have a purpose in what you've walked through, and you're using it as a catalyst for proclaiming God's truth and loving people well. And I'm so thankful for that. Thank you for taking your time to be on the show today, for sharing your wisdom, your insight, your vulnerability, your emotion with us. We love you. We are thankful for you. And we join you in praying for those who are in prisons across our country and around the world. And, just encourage you guys, if you're listening, to find an opportunity to at least be informed. Make yourself informed of what's happening in our justice system, and then do what you can to meet those needs, because Jesus was passionate about those who maybe it's not easy for us to think about, but the least and those who have been imprisoned, we should be the first to be there as Christians.
Jonathan, to you and Maya, I hope and wish you tremendous success going forward. We're so excited about your charity and what you've built. We're excited about your book and what you've written. And we encourage, as he's throwing it up here, everybody to go out, check it out, and see you all and hear more about your depth and your story. But I just appreciate you showing up here vulnerable today. I mean, your life could have been one where you hid and stopped vulnerability altogether, and yet I'm walking out of here today inspired by you and appreciative of the man that you are. And so just thank you for coming and blessing our audience today. To our audience, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to come and listen, to be a part of this, and hopefully you've garnered as much from this as I have. We thank you very much. Good luck and Godspeed.